I loved it.
Okay. So as you're
Yeah.
going through school, was the medical field in your mind, or
Mm.
because that was sort of programmed, but did you have other thoughts? What was the initial career path that you thought you would take?
I mean, when I was younger, I told my mom I wanted to be an archaeologist.
Okay.
And my mom was like, "Oh, why?" Because I want to explore things. I'm like, watch in Indiana Jones. They had bought me like lots of
Hmm.
books, dinosaurs. So that's when I was younger. Then when I was like probably 14 or 15, I told them I wanted to be a lawyer, and they were
Okay.
like, those folks don't make any money in Nigeria. Like, you should be a doctor. And so by the time I came to the United States, um, you need a first degree before you can go into medical school. So my mom's plan
Hmm.
was that I should first do pharmacy and
Okay.
then come back and do just like these really science heavy courses.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
tried, and it was like I said, I was feeling like, yeah, I
Was
was
it?
feeling, yeah,
But
it wasn't.
along, just not with the failing, but did you feel this is something you really wanted to do, or were you really just
No,
trying to make mommy and daddy happy?
I was trying to make mommy and daddy happy, but I didn't even know that that's what I was trying to do. But when you fail enough times, you're like, why am I failing? Oh, because I don't care about this. And then you realize that what you care for isn't what you're doing. And then you're like, why am I doing what I don't care about? And then I'm like,
Right,
oh, because these
right.
people have brainwashed me into believing that these are my dreams.
Mhm.
So I switched it up. And it's funny because like I was panicking because all of my friends were graduating um, from community college and moving on to like 4 year colleges.
Mhm.
And it was just me left. And I started panicking. I'm like, I need to get the fuck out of here.
Mhm.
And I was like, I can't continue trying to study organic chemistry because I'm not interested in it. And so
Right.
when I told my parents that I'm switching
Okay.
to economics and Chinese, and they were like, sure. I'm like, really? So you mean I could have?
I could have did that a long time ago.
I'm like, why am I? What? Yeah, I was happy and also disappointed. I'm like, I could have not, because I just wasted so much time. Not wasted, but yeah, I spent so
Right.
much time doing shit that I shouldn't be doing. I
Mhm.
should have. Yeah. So yeah, so I that was it. Yeah.
Okay. So then start to walk us through what you're doing slightly after, and then when food culinary is starting to enter into this picture.
I think the biggest thing, like the sort of like transformative moment for me, which wasn't a single moment, it was a few years, almost a decade, was I became undocumented. So I transferred to um to a 4 year college with my little economics and Chinese plan.
Mhm.
And I could only afford to be there for one semester. And after that, I couldn't really afford to pay the tuition. So I dropped out of school.
Mm.
And as soon as you drop out of school as a foreign student, you're undocumented. You,
Okay.
you you lose your status. So for the next 10 years or something, I was just struggling. It's hard to say to explain it because thankfully I had a support system, like my
Right.
aunt. And my aunt is in the US. She was like middle class. She's a pharmacist, a
Mhm.
professional. Her husband is too, even though he didn't practice. So there was a home, there was food, but like there wasn't, there weren't prospects, right? So I could have lived in the place for free. I mean, to a certain degree, because even after a while, my aunt would be like, "Yo,
Mhm.
you're in your 20s. What are you
Mhm.
doing?" But I couldn't get a job, and the only jobs that I could get were, you know, um, it was manual work, which is fine,
Okay.
except it's not fine if you're undocumented and you're getting paid shit to work. You're getting paid shit to clean shit because
Right.
that's what was happening. Like I was
Mhm.
working. I think I was paid this one job. I was cleaning offices. And I was paid, I don't know, anywhere from $7 to $10 an hour. Something
Mhm.
crazy. And that's not. I mean, that's not enough to take care of yourself, and that's not enough to even have dreams.
Right. Right.
So that was the condition. I had to figure things out, and so I started trying to you know um, start businesses because like nobody was going to hire me, so I had to like create my own thing, but nothing was working.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that was like that was the first like really big impactful thing that that changed the course of my trajectory, which is being undocumented. The second thing was when I made a decision that even though I was undocumented, that I was going to make a different choice in my life, in that I was you know playing it yeah, like I was playing it safe, right? It was like I'm already undocumented, but I'm trying to do things the proper way, which is
Mm-hmm.
trying to find, or trying to like, well, let me just live in my aunt's house in the suburbs. Let me, you know, maybe try and find work here and there, and also on the side, just continue these creative projects that I had. But then in April of 2011, I decided to move into the city of Detroit,
Okay.
back into the city and into the center of this like creative revival, if you will, that was happening. Um, and I didn't have much money. I was making $500 a month working for a friend who was a realtor, and my monthly bills, after I moved, came out to like $600 a month. So like every month I was making less.
Mm.
Every month I had a deficit of $100, um, and this was even before I had like money to buy food to eat.
Okay. Wow.
So I was staying with some roommates, some white boys, and I kept stealing their food. They kept like I was like 30, I was like 28 or something, and they just kept like they were like, Tunde, you cannot eat our food. And then I was like, bro, I'm sorry. And the next day they were like, what again? You can't. And in my head, I'm like, I know I can, but like in my head, I'm like, do you want me to die of starvation? Like I had no food. I have to eat something. I just remember, like I don't know, like a possessed crackhead just stealing food after I've been warned over and over again. But I'm like, I have to eat, you know. But being in that community at the time with different folks, mostly white folks, in Detroit, who were doing all kinds of work. Like my roommate he was an artist, muralist, um, filmmaker, all kinds of things. And he was not unique. There were other people. People were starting restaurants and starting bars and starting liquor companies because the cost of living was so inexpensive in Detroit at the time, and also access to um, institutional resources uh, was easy to come by. There were a lot of foundations, and the city, even though the city was under resourced, the city was very open to new ideas. I mean, maybe because they were in such like a precarious financial position. So being able to navigate those spaces socially, and um, it was like um, graduate school for me,
Okay.
really. I was meeting so many people, like hanging out with urban planners and architects and artists and musicians, and entrepreneurs, and
Mm-hmm.
so I just got in where I fit in, and I started a project, you know, this like tech based thing that I was doing for a second. And then I started writing for a publication there, and I became really plugged into that sort of social entrepreneurship scene
Okay.
in Detroit. And then that was through those relationships, and then through my roommates, because I left that situation. I was able to get a more steady work, and then get my own place.
Get your own
Um,
food.
yeah, oh my God, get my own food indeed. But she was still crazy now because I remember when I moved into my own place, like because oh my goodness, I didn't have power, electric
Oh,
power. It was January, from January to um, like February or something, or maybe March. I had no power in
wow.
Detroit.
In
Yeah,
Detroit.
the reason why I didn't have any power is because my credit was so bad. Apparently, that DTE, that's the energy company, I had to pay a deposit to get power, and I didn't have any money because I just started work, and I was gonna get paid like a month or two later.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my brother, man, we lived there. We had to thug it out, and he was like, "Yo, the whole house had, because it was a 4 unit duplex, so everybody else had power. My brother made friends with the neighbor upstairs. We sent
Wow.
yeah, sent like an extension cord to his thing, so we were like charging all of our things from there. Then he got mad, so we stopped that. And my brother went into the basement of a 4 unit duplex that was filled with all kinds of trash. And somehow, in the darkness, just
He
imagine,
found the
like, I don't.
outlet.
He did. Yeah, like, I don't even know how he did it. He found an outlet. So we would go down. In fact, he had to like draw me a map every time, because like there was so many.
Oh my
Yeah. So
goodness.
we'll plug our phones there, and then because we had no power and we had an electric stove, I couldn't eat. So what? But we had there was a grill outside. So my brother, shout out to him, he made everything on the grill.
Okay.
I'll come back home and it was like the most lavish meals. Everything, breakfast had barbecue flavor. So did dinner and lunch. Everything was barbecue. Eggs with barbecued
Wow.
eggs. Everything. It's just like he smoked
Wow.
everything. Yeah, we did that for like insane. We did that for like a month and a half, like in the dead of winter.
Talk about, okay, so I have to ask this. What is your mom and dad thinking around this time?
Oh
I
my god,
have to ask.
my dad is so funny. My dad is wild. I mean, because we at that point in time, he was like, "Yo, listen." And there were other things that had happened. Of course, the story is complicated, but
Mhm.
um, his financial situation ebbed and flowed, and so when it ebbed, um, we were the recipients of, like my mom came back again and she put us up in like a really fancy apartment and paid our rent for like a whole year and bought us a
Mhm.
car, but
Mhm.
then it dipped again. So they were like
Okay.
all kinds. So during like the dips, which became more frequent, my dad was like, why? He asked me a question one time. He was like, Tunde, why do you like to live on the poverty line? I'm just like, what the fuck are you saying? You think I like this? Like he was basically saying like, why can't you do something about your situation? I'm like, there's nothing I can do. Like I don't have a college degree. I don't have a job. I'm just trying to get it.
Right, right.
So we had a sort of like a soft don't ask, don't tell policy. Like I didn't bother them with the shit that was going on in my life. And so they just, they were like, we're adults, we'll figure it out. And if
Mhm.
they could help, they would. But
Right.
I didn't. I was trying to think. The last time my parents paid anything for me was I was like 20, you know, 20, 24, 25, and then since then, like they haven't like
You
supported me
figured it
financially.
out, huh?
Yeah, because but again, I had a great support system. Like my aunt,
Mhm.
there was always a house. I could always like go over there and get some food.
Right.
I was homeless for a second, like for like literally one night, and my aunt like found out, and the next day she was like, "What are you doing? Just come
Mhm.
back." I was like,
Mhm.
so thank you so much. I wasn't built for this life.
Shout out to Auntie.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, she came through. She's still coming through right now. Actually, yeah, she's
Okay,
she's great.
okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
So
yeah.
figuring that out. So then let's sort of, how do we get to New Orleans?
So um so in Detroit, sort of like that was where I really established my base,
Mhm.
and I made sort of my professional contacts, and I developed. Um, I sort of came into myself as the as the kind of person that I wanted to be, doing the work that I wanted to do, and
Mhm.
all of that led to the opportunity to open up a restaurant there in the city.
Okay.
And I was talking to this my former roommate, and he had an idea to open up a restaurant, but it was one of many ideas that he had. But for some reason, when we were talking, that was the one that like resonated with me, and I was like, all right, let's do it together.
Mhm.
And I don't think he believed me, but in like 3 months, we had found a place. Or I had found a place. We pulled our monies together. like I had $4,000. He had like 4,000. We opened up the restaurant with 8,000, and there was this like initial wave of excitement for the restaurant, and then it died down, and things were hard, and then we just like hit gold with this by partnering up with one really um, well-known chef in Detroit who was opening up a new restaurant that everybody wanted to come to,
Mm-hmm.
and he decided to preview his menu at our restaurant.
Oh,
And because of that, we got like tons of attention, and then we people started following our work,
okay.
and then we just became really successful. Not in terms of not monetarily, but people just came to our restaurants, and people
Okay.
wanted to like talk to me about food and stuff. And so it was the first time that I was taken seriously in the way that I wanted to be taken seriously. That like my ideas were appreciated publicly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, yeah, food is the thing for me. Like,
Okay.
like from somebody who didn't really have access to resources. I mean, I had access to like $20 if I was broke, and I asked my aunt. But going from that to like having a restaurant, and then people like thinking about investing in me and having meetings like, oh, you want to open up another restaurant? So that kind of stuff was made me
Wow.
realize that this is a place that maybe I should commit to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
By place, I mean our restaurants are that place. And so I was at my restaurant with my partner for a year. We didn't have a falling out, but we decided to part ways because we had
Okay.
different ideas of what the place should be. And I was kind of back to square one. I had no money again, and I also didn't have, um, you know, like uh, an idea of what was going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
Except while I was working in my restaurant, we had hosted a traveling Filipino chef,
Okay.
and so that idea was in me. I'm like, fuck it, let me just travel and cook my own food and cook Nigerian food. And so I was traveling, for like 3 months, went to like 7 or 8 cities. But the first city that I went to was New Orleans, because
Okay.
the lady who would be my wife later lived there, and she said, "Why don't you come here and you just close your restaurant, take a break, think about plan what you want to do for the next couple of months, and see what happens." So I came to New Orleans, did my first dinner there, and I traveled around, for another 3 months. And then sometime in December, I got an email from some folks in New Orleans who had heard about my pop up in New Orleans, and they read it in the
Mm-hmm.
paper or something, inviting me to come and open up a stall in this brand new food hall.
Okay.
And I was ready to like settle down again. And I'm like, yeah. So I moved to New Orleans,
Wow.
and I opened up my restaurant there. Yeah.